Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at S-Class Raven, who is going to be the next promo character coming to the game. Visually she looks a lot like the 6-star character, except obviously she is a tough character this time around. She has got the same hairstyle, she has got the piercings and everything. You see less of her arms. I think she had tattoos as a 6-star, but as an S-Class you are going to see a little bit more visual. I think she has a little bit less makeup going on the face this time around. If you see on the left hand side her avatar, she has just got a bit of eyeliner on, maybe. That's about it. Maybe some lipstick. That's it. So not overly done here. I guess it is going to be a bit further along in the apocalypse, so maybe makeup's running low. You gotta make do with what you can find. Her S-Class stats with full veteran ring, she has got 5,525 attack, 3,409 defense, 3,594 HP. She is considered a damage dealer, of course, with that sort of high level of attack, you'd kind of assume so, and she is a tough character like we've already seen. She is holding that shotgun on the right hand side, which is kind of the massive giveaway. If we check out her rush, it is called Dark Raven. It is a 76 AP cost rush. It deals 200% damage to one enemy. All teammates recover from all penalties. This character gets 100% AP. So three things going on here that are obviously really good. 2,000% damage to one enemy is extremely powerful. It generally is going to mean she's not going to need that much boost from her stat to get, 1535s alone will probably be enough for her to one-shot most characters, because 2,000% is the highest single target damage, or highest any sort of damage we've seen in RTS so far in the S-Class era. It generally just means one character is going to get taken out. The second part, the full cleanse, is nice of course, but it's going to run into issues when it comes up with trauma, because if you cleanse effects when you have got trauma on yourself, you'll take damage based on that trauma. But I will say right now, there is other parts of her kit which do make the trauma less of an issue, so this part of the rush isn't as bad as it first seems. The last bit makes it obviously interesting. It's going to be basically like Arav. The downside of this is once she starts rushing, she's not going to be doing her active anymore. So as long as you don't need her active to go off more than once, because she should do her active in the first 2 turns, if it's a first or second turn active of course. But once she starts the rushing, she's going to have 100% AP. She would generally always prioritize the rush. Of course, she is an attack team character, so you obviously have the choice yourself. But if you were to ever put this character on a defense team, that's how it would go. Okay, so we are going to attack this team. We're just going to gain AP first turn. We're going to get hit by Jesus active, which is going to impair my entire team, except for Raven, because she has resisted it. Now, Raven can be commanded. We're going to do command rush on Raven this turn. And that means we can remove that impair that is on Jeremiah right now. Impair is going to be a massive issue. It'll be on every single teammate. We're only taking 3 characters against 2, just to show you, just to simplify it as much as possible. I'm going to target the revive, because revives are annoying. And we're going to take him out, hopefully. 2,000%, you'd hope so. 14k damage. She is going to get her rush instantly back, as you can see. And now Jeremiah can gain AP. The next turn, I can rush with Jeremiah first. And then I could follow up with another character that I'd have in the team, like Priya or any other character. Obviously, I lose the turn on Raven because I commanded her, but no one would be impaired. And the only time that the impair is going to come in is the next turn. So if I just defended again, you'll see the impair would come in again here. And theoretically, I could cleanse it again if I so wished. I could just cleanse it again. But that's going to kill Jesus. But as you can see, people are taking damage from having trauma on them from his active as well, and that is of course an issue. Raven getting 100% AP as well can be combated by exhaust, so you've got to be extremely aware of exhaust, the main damage potential. But like I said, she is an attack team character. You have 100% control of when you're going to use this rush. If you see she's exhausted and you don't want to risk it, then it's a good idea not to rush. You can do a basic attack, wait until it wears off, and time your rushes for when it will be best to use them. Now when it comes to the trauma, this is where things get a bit interesting. When we move across to her active skill, Battle Plan is the name of it. Turn 1 initial cooldown of 4. All teammates recover from trauma. This character gets 100% attack for 3 turns. Remove camouflage from up to 3 enemies. So obviously, the first 2 parts is really strong. All teammates recover from trauma is extremely powerful. That means that they will not take any damage when you remove that trauma, because removing trauma itself does not inflict damage based on them having trauma. But any other cleanses coming after that will not inflict any trauma damage because they no longer got trauma. So if Raven was to do a full cleanse the next turn, she would have to be commanded because she doesn't gain AP from this active skill. So unless she'd already rushed already to get 100% AP, she would have to be commanded the first term around. But again, attack character in your hands, you can decide what to do. This character getting 100% attack for 3 turns is maybe a little bit of overkill, but in a way I think it's basically going to be, you do this active and your first rush is definitely going to eliminate someone, even if you make her very defensive. And that's where she could potentially be working on a defense team, because you can make her extremely defensive with mods, weapon, everything, and she'll get all of her attack boosts from this first turn active, and that first rush will definitely take someone out. 2000% is going to take someone out regardless most of the time on an attack team, but with the 100% attack boost on top, yeah. Removing camouflage from up to 3 enemies first turn obviously means it's going to counter part of Jesus's leader skill, and if you remove it from 3 people, you can obviously rush one of the people with camouflage and take them out, and then do a multi-hit rush on the other person, and it will go from the person with camouflage to people who don't have it. As I showed in my Dwight video, if you target the person who has camouflage, if one person has camouflage, it will do multi-hits to other people, but if you target the person who doesn't have camouflage and there's someone who's camouflage next to them, or with rampage attacks, it will not hit that person with camouflage. So always target the person with camouflage if you want to do multi-hits to surrounding targets. So we're going to attack again, and I'm just going to show you her active first turn. You can see 3 people have camouflage. I just do the active skill and 3 people lose that camouflage. I could target one person if there was a 5-man team, and that person would definitely get their camouflage removed, and then the 2 others would be completely random. So if there was a specific character that you wanted the camouflage removed from, you would obviously target the one that you wanted. In a 3-man team, it's going to just remove it from everybody. Now the downside here is, obviously she's got the 100% attack, but the obvious downside here is if I just do my 2 follow-up basic attacks, what's going to happen next is the active's going to come in, and my team is now going to be traumatized. So if I want to get the second part of that, which is, cleansing the trauma, I have to wait until turn 2 when it comes against Jesus teams. However, if I come up against the Diego in a defense team as a leader for whatever reason, I could cleanse that trauma first turn. So just to show you that in action, we'll just do the 3 attacks first turn like we did last time around. Now this time I do the trauma removal second turn, and we'd remove the trauma from our man Jeremiah, and we'd obviously remove it from the other 2 teammates as well. Akira has a self, cleanse because he is really powerful with his weapon, but he will take damage because of that, so there is a downside. Now if I do it, you can see that cleanse comes in on Jeremiah. He is now only impaired. So if you were to have another character to cleanse that impair, he would take no damage. It could be Raven herself when she does her rush the next turn, or it could be another character that you'd have in the team. So obviously a really powerful active skill, and seems to be pretty much focused on targeting Jesus defense teams. It's going to make Jesus defense teams a little bit easier to get through. You have to just, time it reasonably well. You can't just do it first turn to remove the camo. It is generally a second turn active by the looks of things. Where it comes into first turn usage is if you had her on a defense team, because a lot of people do use Jesus on attack. Obviously people do use Diego on attack. And straight away, first turn, she'd be able to remove that trauma if they did have those characters on attack teams. You could potentially focus her first turn, control her, get her out of the game, but that is obviously going to leave it open to other characters, like Jesus himself, if he was on the defense team, to get his own active off. So there's obviously going to be problems. She hasn't got the best defensive stats to be used on a defense team, but like I said, because she gets a massive amount of attack boost from this active, you don't necessarily have to boost that attack too high to still have a massive impact when it comes to the amount of damage she can do. And this is where we go on to the specialist skill. You probably saw it in action in the clips I showed, because she was hitting those resists quite a lot and you saw a resilient pop up. She has got the same specialist skill as S-Class Trader. Resilient, this character has a 50% resistance against all status effects. This stacks with all other resistances. Now I did have an impair resist on her, so she was never going to get impaired, ever, by Jesus. I could have potentially had, a trauma resist on her and she would never get trauma either. But because she's got a first turn trauma cleanse, it isn't as much of a problem. And this is where I see her ability to be used on a defense team massively get boosted, because I see this resilient as a much more powerful defense team specialist skill than an attack team one. It is nice on attack, don't get me wrong. You aren't going to get affected by things a lot of the time, but at the same time, it's really frustrating when it's on a defense team. You all know what it's like with S-Class Trader, with the Resilient. You can get 2 immunities to 2 different effects. So could Raven. And then obviously he's going to have 50% resistance to everything else. So he can be immune to trauma and then never have any effect of trauma unless he gets normalized, which, you know, there aren't too many meta normalized characters at the moment. A lot of them are quite old or not really in the spin. So there could be a new normalized character coming out soon. I think a lot of people are using, you know, Princess, as great as she is, just because she's still so powerful with that normalized on her active. So here we are coming up against Raven on a defense team, and you can see my leader skill from Diego has hit the trauma on everybody except her because she has got immunity. I did mod her for trauma. I can do Jesus, and he's not going to hit either of them. And we can do Mateo. Let's get some skills off. She's going to get resisted there. We can potentially try and hit her here. She's going to hit resilient. And she just basically resisted 4 effects. One or two of them she was completely immune to. We'll still try and stack up. She's going to impair. And what's going to happen now is she'll do a first turn active, remove everyone's trauma. And now when things get, you know, cleansed, there's not going to be any trauma damage, which is what a full trauma team would completely rely on. So it's never a good idea, even before Raven came out, it was never a good idea to go for a full trauma team just because of, you know, the potential Trader and Akira. But now, definitely not, because I'm 100% certain we're going to see Raven on defense teams. So that's what Resilient has to offer, as you already know, with the Trader. Just a lot of resists. She's not going to have any problems, and double immunity of 2 effects of your choice, basically. So it's up to you where you want to go with that one. A lot of the meta right now revolves around Jesus. Jesus everywhere on a lot of free-to-play teams, so Impair Resist is pretty good, so that she can actually rush. But you could maybe see that her rush isn't as big a deal or as important for you as you think, and you would actually mainly want her to do her active, so her being impaired may not be as big a deal, and you could just maybe rely on that 50% rather than the 100% and go for some other sort of control resist. You know, it's completely up to you. Now, when it comes to her weapon, we saw on the intro, she has got a default shotgun. That means you can just put whatever weapon you want in her hands. I'm guessing they did this to basically give you the option of putting, you know, a defensive weapon in her hands when she's on the defense team and an attacking weapon in her hands when she's on an attack team. So, you know, instead of having to, you know, build up a 5-star weapon and then be able to use her, you can use her pretty much straight away on whatever team you actually wish to. When it comes to the type of weapon I'd use in her hands, I would probably just go for like a double attack weapon. It doesn't take effect on her rush, obviously, it's just a big impact one shot, but, you know, the basic attacks are going to do a lot of damage, especially with that 100% boost. She's going to do a lot of damage there. On a defense team, you could just keep it quite heavily stat-based, AP on attack, and impair on defense, and you're happy with that pretty much. Okay, so I thought I'd just test out a little attack team idea that I had against a Jesus defense team. Now, this Jesus defense team has Akira, obviously, is a problem. Jesus himself, Trader. We also have a payback specialist, which means you can't easily nuke the team. You have to normally normalize that team. But what we're going to do is we are going to just line up the attacks on Akira here. And you did see I did hit a rampage attack there, but because they've got camo on that defense, that is not going to be an issue. We will have Andrea cleanse her own impair here, so she will take exhaust damage most likely on her turn here, and she will obviously be able to give AP on her rush. But you can see 3 of my characters are impaired. So what I can do is I can do the active of Raven, then I can do the active of Axel, and you can see characters are starting to get things back, basically. And what I can do is I can remove the Guardian Shields with Jeremiah, and he should follow up with an actual kill. He does indeed. And now I can see who the characters are left behind that have the camouflage. It's these 2 characters. So I've got to make sure I take out one of these characters with one character and one with another. So I'm actually just going to normalize this turn because that just makes sense to me. We're not going to have any problems the next turn. Just going to take a little bit of damage. And now we've got 3 big rushes to come. I can just nuke the bottom line. I can then finish up with taking out Trader. And if I needed to, that's 100k damage to Trader because of the 100% bonus. Damn, that was nuts. And then we can just finish off with whoever we want on top. So Priya didn't even get to rush there. So there could potentially be usage for, let's say, a princess there instead, just to get that normalize off turn 2 rather than wasting the active of Andrea rather than rushing. And in that team, you did see I used Jeremiah as the leader. All of those other characters were ranged, so you wouldn't necessarily have to use Jeremiah. Jeremiah is just good because he does disarm the enemy. So you're not going to run into any issues when it comes to absolute defense, stun on defense, and they're all over the place on those Jesus defense teams. You could potentially even disarm Akira himself, so he wouldn't be cleansing any issues. He wouldn't be getting that Guardian Shield every turn, which would be obviously beneficial. It didn't happen this time around. I think he resisted it because he did get a Guardian Shield for turn 2. But that is an easy team without a command as well is nice. You could potentially, just like I said, replace the Priya there and put a command in there instead. I just put that team together in like 3 or 4 minutes, just thinking of some ideas, and it seemed to work pretty well. I think it worked pretty well. You potentially have to defend on someone like Axel turn 1, so he didn't give the AP to himself if you wanted to make it quicker. Once you got into the rhythm of how that team worked, you'd obviously get it down in terms of what you've got to do, the sort of attack sequences. But for a little first test, I thought that looked pretty good. And yeah, Raven's going to be very, very dangerous. Taking out Camouflage from 3 characters, cleansing Trauma, is going to make things a lot easier for attack teams for sure. But do give me your thoughts on this character as an S-Class. Do you like what she's become as an S-Class? Do you think she visually looks great? Let me know down in the comments. We have had 6-star Raven, and I know a lot of people like 6-star Raven. I thought 6-star Raven was cool. I think I even did a 10 pull for 6-star Raven when she first came out. So I think I'm going to do a 10 for the S-Class too. I don't think I'm going to go into the big pulls. I'm going to be saving for a big 100 pull again, but I think she's worth a 10 just for a bit of fun. I think she's a great character, but also she's cool looking. So yeah, got to try for a 10 pull on Raven. But good luck if you do any pulls. And like I said before, give me your comments down below. I want to thank you very much for tuning into my video. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.